Hello. So I'm just coding some videos on the server. Just a couple odds and ends. I still have a lot of editing to do, but I thought I should record some of what I've been messing with. I mean, you can kind of see I have progressively more and more machines getting into existence, so to speak. Coming into existence. And now I'm starting to upload these videos as well, the ones that we're recording right now. Memory stuff with VMware learnage. Got a lot of learning to do. But I wanted to do a little bit of talk as far as how I'm approaching the network access storage and stuff, because there's some interesting shit going on here. Now, this will involve a couple odds and ends if I can get myself logged in here. So, I go back into the data store here on the actual main server. I created this. This is what I'm calling NAS server for now. It's just a virtual machine that has a Windows Server 2016 operating system on it, as opposed to, say, free NAS or equivalent. I decided I'm going to go at it how I know, because I'm familiar with, and that is a Windows system and utilizing network sharing. That's what I know. That's what works. I like it. I'm comfortable. I'm familiar with it, and so on and so on. So that's what I'm working with. And since the controller is ultimately going to be doing the raids and stuff, I don't necessarily require a software level redundancy, so to speak. Right? That's some of the logic behind it. Although there's a lot of different options and stuff. But for me, this is what I did. At least for now, for testing purposes. So there's my virtual disk that holds the server itself. And are we even running it right now? I should be. Yes, I am. Okay, so it is running. Good. So I have the operating system on a virtualized disk. Now, how do I create network shares was the first question, because the entire disk is formatted into that VMFS6 structure, and you can't just make a partition or anything like that. It uses the entire disk. I know there's ways to pass drives and so on, but then there's a lot of question marks for me, and I'm sure there's plenty more effective solutions, but I wanted to go about this slightly different, something that would probably be considered dangerous in any kind of production environment, and that is, let's trust the virtualizing platform. If this is supposed to be, corporate enterprise grade fucking technology, let's try it their way. And so what I did is I created a virtual disk. In this case, it's just going to be a small 200 gig virtual disk, because this is only a test NAS, so to speak. But this would be ready to replace in the future on the other machine when it comes in, all of that, with something much bigger, 4 terabytes, etc., etc. Just big ass fucking disk, right? And add that in, and I also had a industrial virtual disk. This is my music, and that one is about 175 megs or so. Collection is pretty decently sized, and I had to do it for a very specific reason. I'll get in on that a little bit later, because that was an interesting solution that benefits this technology in particular. So for the moment, let's just focus back on this. I have my virtual disk, that's NAS server. So what I ended up doing is inside the... Why the hell am I up here? Oh, right, we just got done streaming on Twitch. We were playing a game and I was up there. There we go. That's a little bit easier for me. Feel more at home here in my corner. So anyways, let me go back, not to you, to you. So the NAS server, when you go into edit settings, and it seems it's better to make these kinds of settings in the vSphere web client interface as opposed to through the workstation or something else. You get a lot more options, and that's going to be even more interesting when I get to that industrial disk I was talking about. The option for it is down here, so you would be able to, if you hadn't made it yet, you would just say new hard disk, add, and then you would create it, and so on and so on. Otherwise, in my case, I think I pre-made it or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is you created a virtual disk and a container that's on the data store. As long as you have enough free memory for it. And I even pre-allocated it. So there it is, the 200. Interesting. But yeah, I had it pre-allocated. I don't know where it says that though. I figure a storage will make most sense, not to make it a thin provision, but just make it, remove all overhead and pre-allocate. Okay, thick provision, yeah, there it is, which I think is that. So it should be physically occupying all that space, regardless of what we have or do not have in there. So it was just added as a device, a hard drive, a hard disk, whatever. Should probably reduce the size of this a little bit. God damn it. This thing's been fighting me for a while. It's fighting me, alright. Alright. So this is what I'm using right now as my test NAS server. And this one will most likely be what I migrate to the server when I have it up and running. And it may not be here till next week, apparently. Right now it is the 26th Wednesday. So I may not see anything till Tuesday of next week. It's possible I may see something on Friday, but I don't know whether or not they shipped it out yet, and this and that and schmat, so there's so much fucking annoying drama with that shit. But, so, anyways. Disk M, as in disk manager. That'll allow me to type it out. Well, you know, find my disk thing with the... Really? You're gonna do that to me? There it is. The disk management. You can see I have a few interesting tools too that are gonna integrate with this. For now, it's just a test of concept, and test of concept is actually working pretty well. So if there was my C drive, right? When you attach another hard drive in here, it will initially not be visible. You have to go into like disk management, and you would have to right click and tell it to go online. You may have to initialize it. You may have to format it and all that, just like you would a normal hard drive. So it's not like you plug it in here and it'll just show up in your Windows Explorer. You have to initialize it first, or at least tell it to go online, so on, depending on if there's data on there already and so on. And this is the guy here. And you can see there's my industrial one. More on that a little bit later. So ultimately, this NAT thing is going to be like a 4+ terabyte virtual disk. That's nothing more than a network share in Windows on a Windows server. So this OS would be running this virtual machine. And I did that quite simply by taking the drive. I went to properties, and anybody that's got these annoyances, like it with like password problems and shit, here's how to deal with it. If you're on a private network, meaning you don't want to password anything or deal with that crap because you're not on a public network, no one else has access, it's just you and your computers and nothing else, then you can get rid of that annoyance. And you go to advanced sharing. Wait, I don't want to, not industrial, wrong one. Yeah, it should be this. I just named it S as NAT, and the test disk is 200 gigs. So I can do testing and stuff, right? So I'm going to properties, sharing, advanced sharing. I gave it a name, and then you go into permissions under everyone, which should be there, I believe, by default. You click the top box so it allows everything. Full control, change, read. Hit OK. That's how, as far as most people go, right? And then something doesn't want to work. Well, go over to the next tab once you've done the sharing thing. Go to security, click on edit, find everyone, or add it if it's not there. I don't want to get into it too much, but ultimately, if you add or click on everyone and click on allow full control in here, it will allow you to get in the drive. And if it does happen to ask you for username and password, you just type in guest and it'll work. I don't know if you can leave it blank or not, but if you just type in guest, it'll work. So if you don't do that little step, it gets a lot more annoying as far as all that stuff. But it just shows up fine on my network. Let's see. What am I looking for? You. Yeah, and this computer, this Windows 7 installation seems to have been going through a weird phase now where it's not displaying anything on the network. I can connect to stuff. I can go, 192.168.1.201 or something like that to go to the other computer. Here's a good example. This is the Windows computer, Windows 10. I don't know why it opened two password things, but I can just type in, say, guest, and boom, there it is. And since I gave it full access control and stuff, we're good. I don't know what the IP address is on that. I wonder why it does that. Yeah, might be some weird Windows 7 bullshittery. It's being builders. But if I go back to say, let's use the encoding one. This is the server I'm encoding into this PC network. So I gave that Windows machine a name of Necrosis. Boom, there's my NAT prototype for now is what I'm calling it. And boom, that would be the folder and bam, all my storage. And right now I just have two different things in here. YouTube encodes and a set of backups for something. So I've been using this NAT as a first test by incorporating it in relation to this encoding software. In this case, it loaded, if you remember the videos in the past, how I was testing this, the raw videos and the project file are stored on a second desktop computer drive. And that's what's being loaded in here. And I changed the output that it's producing to use the network share, over the network, that is Necrosis. So it's taking it and over the internal network, it's utilizing that virtual shared drive, and it works. It works well. I haven't had any issues so far.